Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the news that Starmer's Director of Communications has resigned. So you know what that means is I'm going to talk about just how bad Labour comms have been since the election, why I think it went from good in opposition to bad in government, and what they need to do to put it right. Let us go. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So Matthew Doyle has resigned as the Director of Communications. He's reported as saying the resignation is due to having destabilised comms at number 10. Now, I don't know whether he resigned because he genuinely felt he wasn't usefully fulfilling the role, or because of another power struggle with McSweeney, who seemingly won't be happy until his entire team consists of nodding dogs. However, Labour communications have been woeful, and so the move at least has the potential to see improvements. It may or may not get any better, we will see. But it was clearly not going to get any better with Doyle in the role because there was no improvement at all. That is not to say I think Doyle was incompetent or anything. I'm not having a pop. It's worth noting he was brought in to sharpen Labour's messaging up after their by-election loss in 2022, and he did. But there's a difference between communications in opposition and in government. And someone who is good at one is not necessarily best placed to deliver in the other. It's sort of like the Peter principle, isn't it? You know, you get a job because you were good at a slightly different job, but you may not be good at the next one, right? In opposition, you can spend months working on a great messaging campaign. Oh, you sit around, you discuss ideas, you have a bagel or two, then you test them out in focus groups, you do surveys. You leak a little thing to the media, go, oh, let's just gauge public reaction. Let's just pretend we're thinking about this, see what happens, before you finally launch your message officially. In government, you don't have the luxury of that time. You know, something happens, journalists want to know what you're going to do about it within the hour. Now, sometimes an opposition may have to say it with something big as well. But in opposition, you can say you would do a thing and then a few months later say you do something else. In government, as soon as you say what your position is, that is then government policy. It's your government position. And if you try and change it, you're U-turning. So journalists want to know. They want to know where you stand on a thing within an hour. It's not even like the days of the last Labour government. I'm not just talking about the difference between opposition and government. The last Labour government, they may have had a day or two to think about it. Now, you need an instant response. Otherwise, someone else is going to capture the narrative in the news cycle, because that news cycle is going ahead this afternoon, whether you lead on it or someone else does. For example, think about the public perception of what Labour government have been doing so far. What is that perception? Cuts and tax rises. That's the narrative, because Labour have not been leading that narrative themselves. They've allowed the media to do it. Because although there have been cuts for some, there have been boosts for many others. You take the situation with pensioners, saying the winter fuel allowance, just as an example. The accusation levelled at Labour is that they've cut money from the poorest pensioners. I get it in the comments. It's like, no, they boosted the income of the poorest pensioners by £4,000 a year. Now, I remain of the view that the policy Labour adopted was still politically naive, but it didn't blow up as I feared, did it? Where are the media articles of how people suffered this winter? You know, there were plenty of articles about how they were going to suffer. But where are the articles going, aha, we told you it was all bad. It's spring now. The weather's warming up. It's over 20 degrees in here in my little shed. If there were going to be tales of woe about the damage Labour's policies did, they would have been published by now. Where are they? They're nowhere to be seen. But the story of how Labour massively ramped up the number of pensioners getting pension credit, which is worth thousands of pounds a year, that is also missing from the narrative. And that is just one example of how Labour's comms has completely failed. Doyle may well have been superb leading comms in opposition. In fact, the Labour comms in opposition was decent. And, you know, he may have also been good. He had a similar role during the Blair and Brown years as well. You know, I'm not knocking his abilities. The reason Starmer brought him in is because he was effective in his previous role when Labour were last in government. It's just that those skills are not necessarily up to the job in government with a 24-hour social media and news cycle, which didn't exist during Labour's last time in power. The role needs someone who can anticipate, first of all, and react quickly. As soon as something becomes newsworthy, the Director of Communications needs to be directing communications. They need to be organising the discussions which take place, because those discussions are taking place right now in the news on social media. You need to be at the forefront of it. They need to be feeding ministers the lines that they need to sneak into interviews. They need to be organising Labour's own social media contributions. Are they getting someone like that? Maybe. The suggestion is that the role will be filled by James Lyons. Now, a couple of things about him. First, according to The Guardian, he is favoured by McSweeney, which straight away, red flag, gets me thinking, oh, this is probably just another power struggle with McSweeney winning by installing another yes man into a senior role. Or it might be a genuinely good move. Lyons has been a political journalist, but also worked for TikTok. So there is a chance, just a chance, that he not only understands how messaging works on social media, but that he understands the potential for Labour to harness this power. Now, it doesn't follow that just because he worked for TikTok, he understands how social media works. Not everyone who works for KFC knows how to cook chicken. So it's a hope rather than expectation, but it is a hope. Lyons joined Labour last autumn, so he's not been part of the operation for very long. I now wonder, so a few weeks ago, people were starting to tell me, Labour were reaching out to some like progressive YouTubers, including Politics Joe, Gary Stevenson. And now I'm thinking, was that maybe down to Lyons? Was that change in position down? So maybe this is a transition that has been building for a few weeks. That would be the optimistic interpretation of not only this change of personnel, but the recent engagement by Labour with social media platforms. Of course, it will be impossible to say anything for sure until we see how Labour change their approach to direct messaging. Because I'll keep repeating the benefit here. On my channel alone, in the last 4 weeks, there's been about 420,000 unique accounts in the UK watch some of my content. In the UK, this is specifically the UK. And these are people who are interested enough in politics to watch what are explicitly political videos. So then you consider, so these 420,000 unique individuals who watch some of my content in the last 4 weeks, how many of them then talk to other people about the issues raised? And you just think about the potential reach just for me. Then you think, what reach could Labour get? If only they would learn how to use social media, put a bit of effort into it. Labour actually have, you won't believe it, they have a really large communications team. There's a lot of staff in it. And they're mostly wasting it. And it's provably wasted because there is a list as long as your arm of the positive contributions that Labour have already made in government. Most people only know about the bad stuff because Labour are not having that conversation with the public. Only the media who want to talk about the bad stuff are. And when they do try, it's absolutely abject. As a Labour member, so I've been getting some emails recently from various Labour ministers about some of the things they're doing, right? They're dreadful. They are at least trying to communicate some wins to their own members in a way they don't bother with the public, maybe in the hope that we will pass the message on in door knocking sessions, because that seems to be the only way they think they can communicate with the public. But even the message to members is dire. They need someone who understands how to structure a message in an authentic and meaningful way, and then how to use their own lines of communication on social media to get that message out to the millions of people that they could absolutely get through to if only they would use social media properly. They have everything they need to do this already, apart from the know-how. Does Lyons have it? If not, does he at least value it and will seek it out? We'll see. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.